Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with Drummer of Zepparella, spiritual counselor and author Clementine Moss. She is the founder and drummer of Zepparella, with a busy solo career as a singer and songwriter. Her book, From Bonham to Buddha and Back, The Slow Enlightenment of the Hard Rock Drummer, uses her music career as a metaphor for contemplative practice. She moved to New York City with a creative writing degree after college, and her writing path gave way to her musical one when she found drumming. She lives in San Francisco these days, and she has a great story. Enjoy this interview.
Clementine, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, that's great.
So where are you located at in the world?
I'm in San Francisco.
Oh, wow. It's a great city.
Yeah, where are you?
I'm in Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, Kansas City. Yeah. Actually, I'll be there at the end of this month, playing a show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, that'll be around the time. I'm trying to think. We're going to have the NFL draft here. It's going to get crazy here pretty soon. So,
uh-oh.
Yeah. Everybody will be descending. Well, and we'll have the World Cup, too, which still blows my mind that we pulled that off.
Oh, my gosh. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
when is that?
It is, 26 maybe, I think.
Oh, gosh, yeah. We'll be there the 30th, so hopefully we'll skirt around some of it.
Yeah, probably so. Well, Clementine, before we get into your life and how, what makes you who you are, I want to know first and foremost, the last 3 years with COVID has been quite tumultuous, and it's worked on all of us in different ways. So I'm curious how you survived that time period and how it subsequently has changed the way that you live life and conduct business now.
Well, musicians were kind of the first to feel it and the last to kind of come back into, normal life, right? And I make, my primary source of income is in playing shows, being in a rock band. So I kind of watched shows for the year as the lockdowns happened. I kind of watched them all kind of fall like dominoes in front of me. And then, thankfully there was government assistance for, small business owners and musicians at that time. So that kind of carried me through financially. But what I realized when everything stopped is that, I've been a musician for 30 years, and for the last 20, I've been playing, 6 to 8 shows a month, flying all over and, all that travel. I recognized when I finally had the time to do it that there was a level of fatigue in me that was so deep. It was like an ocean of fatigue. So the first few months were spent in addressing that, just really being, a lot of self-care and just really being kind to myself. Luckily, my family, people did get COVID, but nobody got it direly, which was, a great relief. I was here with my husband of 20 years, and he's a musician and a manager of bands and a tour manager. So, we'd have 20 years of, rarely being in the same place for more than a month or two at a time. And we realized we liked each other. So that was a nice surprise, spending so much time together. And then, I really did start to feel the sense like, gosh, the world really needs to get back to being in spaces where we're all together being moved by music, being moved by our heart, being moved by celebration or joy. And I kept feeling, the real drive to get back to doing that again. And now I value the connection, the community, the call to celebration that music provides. And so while I'm not working, we kind of all made a decision to not, work ourselves into the ground the way we were before. We really did get back, and I feel like, with kind of a commitment to to put on the best kind of shows that we could and that we can, and to really open our hearts up to the people that we're rocking with. Yeah.
So are you going to play a show in Kansas City?
Yep. Mhm.
Where are you going to play?
Yep. We're playing at the Record Bar.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's a great place.
Oh,
have you played
great.
there before?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
The person who books it is a real old friend of my husband's, so that's kind of neat too. It's a little bit of a homecoming, and he'll actually be there. We're playing in Omaha the next night, and that's where he's from, and we have, a great extended family there. So some people will be coming down, so it'll be kind of a 2-day party. So I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let me get kind of a handle on you and how music became your life. I mean, did you always dream when you were younger that you were going to be a musician when you grew up?
No, music was a complete surprise, actually. I was very musical as a child, playing different instruments and being in the choir and, all of that. But I really saw myself as a writer, and I went to school for writing, and then I moved to New York when I graduated from college, and really, went to New York City and was like, okay, this is it. I'm going to be where my favorite writers were. And I was floundering in my mid-20s. I felt like I didn't have anything to say, and was kind of spinning around, and I found drumming. And I started playing drums when I was 27, and pretty quickly it kind of took me over. So yeah, it's kind of a funny story that way.
So when we go back into your life, tell me where you were born and raised and how the roots and the seeds of music got into you to become who you are today.
Well, I grew up in Southern California, in Orange County, California, in the suburbs. And my dad was the ultimate rock and roll lover. Every weekend morning, 8 a.m., stereo up all day long. And his favorite band was the Stones. And he and my mother always went to see the Stones when they were in town. And but then he loved, all what we call classic rock now, but at the time was just rock, and really loved Southern rock a lot, and the Beatles, the band, all of that. And it was just a great music education for me. My mother's mother had sung briefly when she was young with big bands, and so the big band music was really coming from my mother's side. So I just really loved all the old jazz standards and all of that stuff as well. So there was a lot of music around, and I was playing piano and the flute and all of these different things. So I feel like my father kind of taught me how to hear music, in a particular way. And so when I started playing drums, I realized that I had this kind of basic understanding of rock and roll that I think might be in my DNA.
So what was the first live show you ever saw in your life that really blew you away?
I saw the Stones at the LA Coliseum. Prince and George Thorogood opened for them. Prince got booed off the stage in front of 90,000 people after 4 songs. Which I think more than anything just says that Stones fans weren't really going to put up with anything, other than the Stones.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember my father took me to that concert, and I remember that very clearly, of it just being just so, everything so big, It didn't occur to me at the time that would ever be, a part of my life. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So who's been kind of a role model or a hero for you in your life?
Well, let's see, well, now, I'm a spiritual counselor as well. I work in some different modalities that are based in Buddhism and shamanic technique. I really have to say that, the real heroes to me are people who really dive in and approach their suffering with the idea that they're going to be that they're going to work to relieve it. I had a very negative voice in my head for most of my life, and through a lot of years of just kind of diving in and uncovering where that was coming from and how to deal with it and how to move past it so I could wake up in my mornings and feel like I was worthy of being here, feel like I was worthy of being in the world, and that I had something to say and to contribute. It was a big, long process. So when I think about the people I work with diving into things like PTSD or early childhood trauma, and they really are so brave in confronting those things, I don't know, that to me, that's what really I feel are the heroes in the world, the people who decide that suffering is not what is supposed to be present for us. We're supposed to learn from it and then move through it.
So if you can meet anybody alive, musician or otherwise, on the planet right now and spend some time with them, who would it be?
Let's see. I would love to. I'd love to meet up with the Dalai Lama. I'd like to be with somebody who has devoted his life to compassion and to feel what that energy feels like. I think that would be pretty wonderful. Yeah.
So I got to say, have you been to Knuckleheads in Kansas City?
Knuckleheads?
Yeah.
No.
It's a pretty big venue, and that's almost where I thought you were going to play. And I saw there was an all-female band, kind of a grunge band from the 90s that reunited called Frog Pond, and I saw them Saturday night. My wife and I went to see him, and Katie Gann and the Drive opened up for him, and there was this woman that was playing the drums that was just phenomenal. If you have a chance, you got to check her out. She stole the show. I mean, she was just all
I'll
over
check
the place.
it out. Yeah, Katie
and
Gans. Okay.
Yeah. Are you familiar with her?
No.
Oh yeah, they rocked the whole thing. Like it was amazing. Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. So I'm curious, in your capacity, if I put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day, just to kind of get an essence of exactly what you do on a daily basis, and one of the kids looks up at you and says, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
Well, if I'm talking to a third grader, I tell them I'm a rock and roll drummer. And I just kind of leave it at that. I have all of these other aspects. I'm a writer and a spiritual counselor, but I think for a third grader, the really neat thing is that I can play an AC/DC song.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
What was the album for you? What was the definitive album that you still come back to in your life that always gets you, motivated or makes you like feel the roots of you wanting to be a musician?
Oh my gosh, there are so many. I'm in a Zeppelin band, Zepparella, so Zeppelin 1 is definitely a real love. But oh my gosh, there are just so many. I mean, the first album I really remember falling madly in love with was Cosmo's Factory, Creedence Clearwater Revival. My father had that. I remember being like 3 and just like looking at that cover. It was only in my 20s I realized, they're in a recording studio. I always thought they were in a garage when I was a little kid because I didn't know what a recording studio was. And then Elton John. I mean, Yellow Brick Road. As far as lyrics go, I'm a songwriter and lyricist as well, and those lyrics, you can't get over Bernie Taupin. So
absolutely. So, what is it that ultimately motivates you every day to get up and to be who you are and do what you do?
Well, I don't know that this is so much of a conscious thing that I'm thinking about all the time, but it has been, a realization in my life that I was born with such benefit. I mean, I had two parents who loved me. I had enough to eat. I was, I had a decent mind. I had good teachers. I've just had so much love and support in my life. And I feel that in my life, my job is to be connected to positivity, to the light, and to model that for people who might be having a hard time finding that in the moment. And, I've always said if I go down in and get wrapped up in being very cynical and depressed, which I have been in my life, but if I really, dive into that and let that be what I am, then I feel like I'm not doing a service to all of the benefits that I was given in my life. I feel like I have to live up in a way to that, to all of the great things that I'm so grateful for. And I really model the fact that, we can be happy. We can connect to this kind of underlying joy that's at the base of our existence. It is possible. And I think that's, hopefully my days end up culminating in, at the end of my life of people saying that I was, that I did shine some light, I guess.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 20-year-old version of yourself, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom and the roads you've been down. What advice would you give your younger self?
Get to therapy. Go into therapy right now. Do not wait until you're later in life. Just start working on it now. Move through all of that stuff. Get going. And start playing drums. Immediately
cool.
Start playing drums. Yeah.
So everyone out there has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but ultimately you're the one in control of your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm creative energy. I think I'm creating the way that I see the world in my perceptions, in my moments. I think I'm creating, that creative force that is Clem moves into different projects, music or learning or studying or contemplative practice. All of these things, I feel there's a creative force that I want to nurture and allow to kind of move forward without judgment. Without judging everything that I do. I'd like to just move with that creative force. So I guess maybe I would say the creative force connected to all creative forces.
So Clementine, if anyone wants to learn about, watch you live, your shows, I know you're coming to Kansas City, your book, anything related to your world, where's the best place for them to go?
So we can go, anybody can go to clemthegreat.com, clemthegreat.com. That has my book, From Bonham to Buddha and Back. And it talks about Zepparella, my band, and then my other musical projects, and my spiritual counseling website is there as well. So that's kind of the hub of Clem, clemthegreat.com.
Clementine, thank you. I love that name. I was looking at my phone, and I don't think I've ever really ran into someone with that name, and I've always really liked it. It just has an elegance to it. So it's great
thank you.
It's great to get to know you. Enjoy Kansas City. Have a great trip, and thank you for imparting your story. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. And, if you decide that you guys want to come out to the show, let me know, and I'll put you on the guest list.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.